Not only are sea urchins robust and abundant, but they also contribute significantly to the ecosystems that are found in our aquatic environments. There are around 18 edible kinds of sea urchins out of the 950 various species that may be found all over the world by themselves. The purple or short-spined sea urchin, also known as Heliosidaris erythrogramma, the long-spined sea urchin, also known as Centrostephanus rogersii, and the red sea urchin, also known as H. tuberculata, are the three primary species of sea urchins that are commonly harvested for their edible qualities in Australia. Indigenous to Australia, purple sea urchins can be discovered in the coastal waters of southern Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, Tasmania, South Australia, and Western Australia. They are also found in the waters of Tasmania. Typically, they are found in seas that are just 10 meters deep or shallower. However, they have been discovered in waters that are as deep as 35 meters. In the southeastern sections of Australia, the long-spined sea urchin, also known as the centro, is most prevalent. Its range extends from the southern region of Queensland to the coastal seas of Tasmania. From the southern part of Queensland to the southern part of New South Wales, red sea urchins can be found. The optimum time to harvest them is between the late spring and the early summer. You will be able to retrieve them from rocks by wading through the water while the tide is low. You can dive in and use a knife to peel them off the rocks if you have a snorkel and a mask with you so that you can do so. The spines of these animals are extremely sharp. Therefore, you will need to wear gloves when handling them. While you are doing this, you need to use tremendous caution. Only in conditions of calm waves and with the utmost prudence should a harvesting attempt be made. A solid understanding of the water is necessary in order to avoid being washed away or impaled on rocks. Thus, it is important to keep an eye out for waves that are particularly strong. Sea urchins are well designed to ward off potential predators given the length and sharpness of their spines. It is possible that at first look, they appear to be inaccessible. Yet, with a few spoons and a little bit of cleverness, it is possible to accomplish this. It is possible to purchase instruments that can be used to open sea urchins. But, unless you intend to collect and consume sea urchins on a regular basis, these tools are not required. Using 2 spoons and a couple of bowls of icy water, it is possible to simply separate the eggs from the urchin. While holding the urchin lengthwise, place 1 spoon on the head of the urchin and press into its shell. Then, place the other spoon back to back. Making a point with the 2 spoons and applying sufficient pressure to split the shell is the first step in prying the shell open. After that, bring the spoons together to make the point. After carefully splitting the shell apart with your hands and shaking the contents into a bucket, you will be able to visualize the orange-yellow row that is located around the perimeter of the shell. After positioning a smaller teaspoon beneath the row, remove it with the spoon. You should take your time, exercise caution, and make every effort to remove the roe in its hole. It is incredibly soft. It is necessary to rinse the roe in the first bowl of ice water before placing it in the second bowl for a minute or 2. After that, transfer the roe to a plate so that it can dry naturally. It is recommended that harvested sea urchins be processed on the same day and stored on paper towels that have been dampened. Although it is best to consume the roe on the same day for the best flavor and nutritional content, it can be stored for up to 4 days if it is kept at a temperature below 3 degrees Celsius. You are able to freeze the roe, but doing so will have an impact on both the texture and the flavor of the oil. It is possible to consume the roe either raw or cooked, and it has a buttery consistency and a flavor that is reminiscent of the ocean. The simplest method is to consume it in its fresh form, with a touch of lemon and some soy sauce. Because of its versatility and high umami content, roe can be used in sushi, added to pasta, or frozen into butter for use whenever it is required. A fantastic alternative to traditional butter that may be used in recipes such as surf and turf, garlic shrimp, mussels, and other seafood dishes. When you consume sea urchins, you not only expose your taste buds to a variety of different flavors and textures, but you also contribute significantly to the maintenance of a healthy environment along the coast. The orange-yellow roe that is still present around the edges of the shell is something that you will notice. Sea urchins have been a popular choice in this area as of late. The fact that people come from all over the world to buy them makes it difficult for us to maintain them in tanks. One can compare the goldfish roe that is contained within to edible gold that comes from the ocean. To illustrate my point, Have a look at the individual from Los Angeles who is a satisfied client. To answer your question, why are sea urchins considered to be so unique? The experience of eating live sea urchins is entirely distinct from that of eating sea urchins with sushi. Fresh sea urchins that have been plucked directly from the live sea urchin will attract the greatest price, as stated in the frequently asked questions section of the sushi website. These fresh sea urchins are worth the experience because they are drastically different from sea urchins that have been processed 24 hours earlier. It is a very different feeling to consume sea urchins that are still alive. To enjoy it, simply open it up, rinse it, and eat it. Live sea urchins have a superior flavor and texture than their frozen counterparts. There is no easy way to put into words the flavor of a sea urchin. Put yourself in the position of having to explain the flavor of something to someone who has never experienced something that is similar to it. It's not easy, is it? If we ask people what it tastes like, we can get a hint about what it tastes like. Most people claim that it has a flavor that is reminiscent of the deepest ocean, or that it has a delectable sweetness. I am aware that this does not provide a lot of information on the actual flavor of the food, but everyone agrees that it is delicious. Consuming a live sea urchin is an exciting feat. The spines are still moving when you eat it, thanks to the fact that it has been cracked open for you. You are quite correct. As you take pleasure in it, it continues to move. If you don't trust me, have a look at this. Even though that might sound revolting to you, what other kinds of food are you able to consume while it is still moving? Even if it is a little strange, we have to confess that it is also quite enjoyable. It is a well-known fact that sea urchins continue to move for more than half an hour after being cracked open. Also, you should anticipate that this uncommon delicacy will be a topic of conversation. As a result of your sea urchin, the people around you will ask you a wide variety of questions about it. So you should get ready to meet new people. Getting to know new people is always a blast, isn't it? You should thus give live sea urchin a shot the next time you get the opportunity to do so. It is possible that you will enjoy it. In recent years, green sea urchins have emerged as one of the most valued commodities in the state of Maine, despite the fact that sea urchin roe is considered a delicacy. Throughout Europe, Japan, and certain ethnic markets in the northeastern United States, the Japanese market has been the primary driver of the fishery's rapid expansion. The quantity of the resource, the favorable exchange rate between the yen and the dollar, and the development of harvesting and processing processes that meet the quality expected by the Japanese market, are all factors that have contributed to the success of the fishery and have contributed to its success. Would it be possible to maintain this market given the distance involved and the demand for high-quality goods? Which methods of fishing would be most effective in maintaining the resource? To what extent would the removal of a significant number of sea urchins from their natural home on the bottom along the coast have an influence on the environment? As this new fishery pushes the boundaries of the resource, these are the questions that we will have to take into consideration in the years to come. A little sea urchin fishery has been operating in Maine for a considerable amount of time. However, previous to the year 1985, the urchin catch was restricted to approximately 45 tons, and it was used to serve ethnic markets in Boston and New York. The catch began to significantly increase in 1987 and continued to do so until 1992, when it reached about 12,000 tons, which is equivalent to over 26 million pounds for the year. Between the years 1987 and 1990, the value of the catch climbed from less than $50,000 to approximately $15 million. It has been determined through preliminary statistics that the urchin capture for the year 1993 was around 15,000 tons. The water that is subtidal and somewhat shallow is where you will find the highest grade roe. The depths of approximately 40 feet are often where dense concentrations can be found. Small bottom drags or scuba diving are considered to be the most frequent methods for harvesting them. Nevertheless, traps, airlifts, or water pumps are other viable options for harvesting them. The West Coast is the most popular location for scuba diving, since the tidal currents on the West Coast are less of a problem than they are on the East Coast. One or more divers, along with a side boat and an operator, are often elements that make up a dive team. The operator pulls the mesh bag up and empties the roe into a bucket that is located on deck after the divers have extracted the roe from the bottom of the vessel and placed it in the bag. The person on deck is responsible for performing consistent quality inspections on the roe. In regions where diving is not an option, urchins are collected using the process of drag. It is possible for drags to create a greater total volume, but they also have the potential to produce urchins that are injured and of lower quality. When used for brief drags lasting 5 minutes, a drag that is small and lightweight will reduce damage. Contact Bruce Chamberlain at the number 667, 4595 for details regarding the specs of the drag. There is a wide range of variation in the quality of sea urchin eggs, which is mostly determined by the time of year and the ecology of the environment in which sea urchins are found. Kelp is the diet of choice, and sea urchins that are consumed with kelp generate eggs of the greatest possible quality. Going out into the ocean and selecting sea urchins off the bottom is not the only thing that is required for successful harvesting. The majority of sea urchins of very good quality can be discovered on what is known as a feed line, which is a thin strip of bottom that is located just beneath a bed of kelp. The most effective way of harvesting involves removing the sea urchins that are of high quality from the feed line and allowing the remaining sea urchins to proceed into the main feeding area where they will grow eggs of high quality for further harvesting. Sea urchins that are sellable can be found throughout the year. However, the majority of sea urchins spawn in the early spring. Prior to the actual development of the roe, the reproductive tissue is ready for commercial collection between the months of November and March. Because sea urchin spines are so fragile, it is essential to take precautions to avoid breaking them throughout the harvesting process, particularly when tugging. Spines are a component of the skeleton, and when they are damaged, they allow salt water to penetrate the shell, which in turn causes damage to the membrane that protects the eggs. Since the year 1987, there has been a substantial rise in the number of people who gather sea urchins, in light of the fact that it can be harvested in very shallow water with only the most fundamental diving equipment. It is an appealing source of revenue. In addition, prices are appealing, and it appears that the market is currently able to take in all of the high-quality sea urchins that are potentially available for harvesting. The actual number of people who harvested sea urchins could only be guessed up until January 1991, due to the fact that the only license that was required was a general commercial fishing license. Beginning on January 1, 1992, anybody who wanted to harvest sea urchins was required to get a special license from the Department of Marine Resources. There is a license for hand harvesting, as well as a license for boat harvesting that can be obtained for $89 each. Over the course of the year 1993, there were a total of 1,439 hand fishing licenses and 568 boat fishing licenses issued. In 1992, there were 807 hand harvesting licenses and 232 boat harvesting licenses issued. The orange-yellow reproductive tissue of sea urchins, known as uni, is extremely popular among Japanese people. Fresh uni may be purchased at auction in the Tokyo fish market for a very high price. It is necessary for Japan to import sea urchin roe from other countries because the country's domestic harvests are not sufficient to satisfy the consumer demand. There has been a thriving industry in California and British Columbia since the 1970s. Several species of sea urchins, such as the giant red sea urchin, the purple sea urchin, and the green sea urchin, have been targeted in this market. Following the depletion of the population on the West Coast as a result of fishing, the hunt is now being conducted along the Atlantic coast, where green sea urchins are widespread in the waters of Maine and Canada. The quality of the sea urchin roe is the most important factor in the market. In addition to being a generic euphemism, this refers to a highly particular set of characteristics, including the freshness of the food, its exact color, its exact weight, and the preparation of the product. The Japanese representatives who came to Maine to explain what was required to satisfy their market were the ones who were responsible for the Maine market eventually taking off. To this day, a significant number of Maine processors continue to employ Japanese individuals to supervise operations. Caviar is rated according to its hue, which can provide each purchaser a very specific impression. Despite the fact that the color of caviar can range from bright yellow to orange to gray, the hue that is considered to be of the finest quality is pale yellow, followed by a pale orange. Different segments of the Japanese market have a preference for various hues of yellow. For the purpose of assisting purchasers, sellers, and harvesters in discussing the quality of sea urchin caviar, the Maine Cooperative Extension Service and the Maine Department of Marine Resources have established a color and weight chart. When determining the weight of the caviar, the weight of the entire sea urchin is used as a measurement. The ideal weight percentage falls somewhere between 10 and 20%, while larger numbers are frequently compensated. Sea urchins with very low percentages have been accepted by some dealers in recent years, despite the fact that the minimum acceptable percentage is generally 10%. This is due to the fact that demand has surged in recent years. The ratio of 10% indicates that 1,000 pounds of sea urchin is required to generate 100 pounds of output. There are around 56 locations along the coast of Maine that acquire sea urchins. However, the majority of sea urchins is sold to a small number of large dealers, the majority of whom are located in the Portland region. In order to process sea urchins, there are two methods that can be utilized. The first approach involves airshipping complete sea urchins to Japan, while the second method involves extracting the eggs from the facility and then airshipping them to Japan. One of the benefits of the first method is that it is straightforward and requires the least amount of manual labor and handling. The second approach has the benefit of being less expensive to airship, but it necessitates cautious handling, additional manpower, and a greater possibility of product rejection in Japan. A significant number of large dealers are currently processing sea urchins in Maine and transporting eggs to Japan as a result of advancements in processing technologies. At the moment, there are no scientific estimations available regarding the size of the sea urchin population along the coast of Maine, or the amount of harvesting that is necessary to achieve the highest possible level of sea urchin egg production. As expected, there is a wide range of perspectives, ranging from a massive unutilized resource to an approaching depletion.